Welcome to C-Suite Sherpas, where we shine a spotlight on business experts and resources that you should know. I'm your host, Ron Partridge, and I'm excited today to have Wendy Ryan, who's CEO of Kadabra, with us. Welcome, Wendy.
Great to be here, Ron. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to talk about Kadabra, obviously, and Kadabra offers a proprietary leadership model. It's called the Learn, Lead, Lift framework. And that framework equips business leaders with the tools and support they need to adapt to changing conditions, which is always happening in business, and really
Isn't
to
it?
successful business transformations, right?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes we're working directly with them, but if you have a larger, more mature business, maybe you have a great HR director or learning and development director. And we just make it really easy to provide fun and engaging learning programs that are accessible to all of your employees, and they're proven to increase future readiness.
So what makes them fun? Because I've a lot of years as an executive, learning wasn't always fun. It was just something you had to do, right?
For sure. Yes. So I spent a lot of years in the leadership development business. I started my career in HR, then got into leadership development because I always felt like I had this real affinity for leaders and their journey. I started Kadabra 11 years ago, and part of it was how do we make leadership development better? How do we make it more fun and engaging? And so we do that a couple of ways. One is having the right tools. So we use things like card decks, we have interactive workbooks, we do a lot of storytelling, and all of our solutions are interactive. I don't think anyone ever feels like they're attending a lecture. It's not like sitting in a classroom. It's like, hey, we're learning something together and we're using some tools that are kind of fun and engaging. So a lot of it is the right tools and also some skill with facilitation, of course.
Now, do you find when you make it engaging, is there better retention and better application of the concepts?
For sure. I mean, we know, for example, just with storytelling, that only 5% of people remember data very well, especially if you give them a long list of data points. But 63% of people remember a story that they were told. So just by incorporating that, we can drive retention of not just learning, but also, it literally translates that to employee retention. Because if we think about as business owners, how are we going to attract and retain the best talent? Learning is a way to do that. If it is engaging, if people enjoy it, if they feel like it's providing value, that makes them want to stay and work with you.
So on this training, it sounds like you kind of customize it specifically for that company and maybe for their culture and their environment. Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, so we like to start by coming in and doing a free audit. If you've got some existing programming going on, sometimes it just helps to have another set of eyes, take a look at that and say, hey, this is working really well. This might be an area of opportunity, especially as we look to future readiness.
Hmm.
So when I talk about future readiness, I'm referring to how do we help evolve the skills they have, and not just leaders that are in the C-suite or have a particular title, but how do we make that accessible to all employees? Because leadership isn't so much now about a title or a position, formal authority. It's really about playing a particular role in a particular situation. So it's all about influence. And all of your employees are going to have an opportunity at some point, whether it's at work or at home, to have to influence somebody to do something. And so if we think about leadership in that context, we see that these are really life skills and they're applicable across a lot of domains. And they basically make the talent you have better and more productive.
So do you measure anything like a famous saying, and we said this all the time in the companies I worked in, is people don't leave the company, they leave their manager. So do you find that through this training that you can even impact in a positive way the employee turnover?
Yes, absolutely. We know, particularly with the younger generation of workers that we all often call Generation Z, that learning and development is one of the key motivators for them, which might be different than it was for you and I when we entered the workforce. So, smart companies are paying attention to that and saying, again, how do I make learning and development accessible to all of my employees? How do I make it fun? Because that's the only way I'm going to be able to attract and keep these younger folks.
So what sets you guys apart from, say, other companies that may do very similar things?
Yeah. Well, I think aside from the engaging quality and the different modalities that we have, we've been really intentional about making sure our solutions are set up in such a way that you can provide a consistent experience to all of your employees, whether you're kind of all clustered in one location or you're distributed all over, or you're mostly in one location, but you have those few sales reps that are out in Chicago and New York and wherever. That's really important. The way that you do that is you make sure that you can provide video-based, self-paced online training where it's needed, but you can take that same curriculum and also deliver it in person, or you take that same curriculum and also deliver it live via Zoom. Some of it is thinking that through and saying, what's going to work for this particular business so that that experience and that opportunity is consistent. Same thing with our card deck. It's available in good old analog form. You can hold them in your hand and they're beautiful, and there's something nice about that tactile texture. But we also have a digital version of the card deck.
Mm.
So you can be anywhere and provide that same experience for your employees. And that's very unique for firms like ours.
So how do you see your field evolving over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, and how are you staying ahead of the curve to kind of lead your clients?
Certainly, the integration of AI into our work and our lives is going to continue to accelerate and open up so many possibilities. And so, one of the ways that we're looking to address that is we've actually built a chief learning officer who's an AI persona. So, we have our first AI team member, and her name is Maya AI, and she's an expert on the Learn, Lead, Lift framework, on adult learning, on trauma informed space holding, all the things that you would sort of want to have that expert in your pocket. And I think the thing with that is it's just another way to, one, understand where the market's going. I think in 5 years, it'll be probably normal to have a team that is, you have some team members that are AI personas and you have some that are human. And so, how are we going to help leaders figure out how to manage that? Right.
Yeah.
So, our, we know that we have to live that ourselves in order to be able to add value to businesses that are trying to figure that out. So, that's just one example.
And first I've heard of that. So I'm going to have an AI colleague, I think, at some point in my career.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. And that can be a good thing. You know, it's really useful to have someone who actually knows what you've written better than you do. There's things that AI is really good at. And if we put the guardrails in place, we're intentional, we're deliberate, it can be a really beneficial tool. It doesn't have to be scary.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I want to give our
Sure.
viewers a chance to kind of get to know you personally, but not too personally. So I'm going to just shoot some questions at you. And if you can give me the answer, first answer that comes to mind, we'll roll along. So if you're ready, we'll go.
I'm ready.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee,
All right. Cats or dogs?
dogs.
All right. Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
So it's one that's actually on my bookshelf, and it says, all great changes are preceded by chaos.
That's good. That's a very good one, actually. What's your favorite movie or streaming series?
Wow, that's a tough one because I do like a lot of different things, but I would say I'm definitely a big sci-fi nerd. So I'm a Trekkie. I like anything that's sort of fantasy or science fiction. I just find it really is fun to push the boundaries around what we think is possible.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Favorite book?
Favorite book. Wow. One of my favorite books is actually, it's a book in Spanish. I'm fluent in Spanish and English,
Oh, okay.
and it's by Miguel de Unamuno. But it's basically a book about a priest who isn't a person of faith, but he has to pretend to be a person of faith. And it's sort of this very short, succinct book, but it's very, very layered. And it's very interesting to me how he navigates what he's experiencing in his internal life and what he's having to manifest externally and how that impacts him and the people around him. And we could probably, if we had more time, go into all sorts of parallels with leadership,
Yeah.
but it's a read that has really stuck with me.
Oh, nice. So you speak fluent Spanish. Do you offer your
See,
courses in Spanish too?
we do, if it's applicable, right, to that context. We have me and we have another facilitator on our team who was actually born in Mexico. She's a naturalized US citizen, but she speaks fluent Spanish as well. And
Hmm.
between the two of us, we cover that ground pretty well so far.
Oh, that's great. All right. Last question, two-part question. Bucket list item that you've already accomplished and one bucket list item that you have not yet accomplished.
So, one of my bucket list items was to write a book, and I accomplished that and published in 2021. It's called Learn, Lead, Lift: How to Think, Act, and Inspire Your Way to Greatness. And I think a bucket list item that I haven't yet accomplished is, boy, there's probably a couple things. There's definitely some more travel that I want to do that I haven't had a chance to do. And I think I want to figure out a way to travel, but also kind of give back to the locations where I'm going. So it doesn't just feel like I'm there to have an experience, but I'm actually contributing something back to the community. So I don't know that I visualize myself like digging latrines and things like that, but I feel like there's something in there between like heavy duty volunteering and ecotourism and like what would work for Wendy Ryan that would, I feel like would just be really meaningful and cool.
All right, the most important question, if any of our viewers would like to get in touch with you and collaborate with you, what's the best way to do that?
The quickest way to do that is to email me at hello at wearekadabra.com.
Okay,
And I'm also really active on LinkedIn. So that's also a good way to connect with me.
excellent. All right, Wendy, thank you very much for your time and your insights. It was very interesting, and I appreciate you being on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.